Breaking now on Up Late, there are 5 new possible cases of the coronavirus in Georgia.
And that is on top of 6 other presumed positive cases in metro Atlanta. Here's what we know. There are 2 possible cases tonight in DeKalb County and 1 each in Cobb, Fayette, and Gwinnett counties. That brings the total to 11 presumed positive cases. The CDC has already confirmed 6 cases of the coronavirus in Georgia.
All right, so what's a presumptive positive result? That means the person tested positive for the virus by state health officials using a test developed by the CDC. That sample then goes to the CDC for final confirmation.